Alright everyone, it's Monday morning. This is the Celtic Way morning briefing with me, Hamish. We've got Tony and Joe on today. I'm not wanting to offend anyone because we may have some English people watching this. As you know, we love you all. We're all Celtic here, but from a Scottish point of view, it was an interesting night last night. How are we all feeling after Spain England? Was that a poor game, Joe? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it wasn't the best game, I don't think, was it?
No.
Yeah, I thought Spain deserved to win, didn't they? 7 out of 7 across the tournament. Fantastic goal to win it as well. It's real quick thinking from wide areas and a real clinical finish. But yeah, it's hard from the Scottish perspective, as you say. No disrespect to any of the English fans. It's actually quite a likeable England team at the moment. I think it's just that some of the pundits make it difficult to watch. But no, I was pretty pleased with the result in the end.
Tony?
4 words. It's not coming home. I'll leave it at that.
I'd be intrigued to know if we do have any English supporters that watch the channel and support Celtic. I know there's a lot of supporters clubs down south that are in Celtic are kind of well supported everywhere. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it was a poor game. I thought the end of the tournament in general wasn't great, but we can move on to the real stuff now, guys. We're less than 3 weeks away from the big kick-off. It's looking like we're going to have a goalkeeper in as well, Kasper Schmeichel, a name that we'll all be familiar with for his time with both Denmark and Leicester City. He's played at Nice, he's played at Anderlecht since leaving Leicester a couple of years ago. And I don't know, has this been a divisive one, Joe? Have you been kind of gauging people's opinion? It seemed like initially there was a bit of frustration with the recruitment team, the board, etc. Maybe that still exists, but also I've noticed a lot of people coming round to the idea of this being a pretty decent signing.
I think so. I was kind of spoken around this for the last couple of weeks on the pod on and off, and yeah, the appeal of having maybe a younger keeper that's got the talent and can commit to the club for a long time. There's obvious appeal there, but equally with the goalkeeper, having that experience, having that knowledge of the game, coming in, filling those shoes of Joe Hart. I saw some people, kind of more vocal, people were upset on social media talking about, Joe Hart said he was too old and retired at 37, and this guy's coming in, but seems to be coming in at 37. I don't think it's apples and oranges, isn't it? It doesn't really... It's not the same thing. Goalkeepers nowadays, some of the best are, even nowadays, the last 10, 15 years, going well past 40. Van der Sar, Buffon, Manuel Neuer's getting up there as well. So I don't think the age thing is anything for me. And it feels like a lot of people have already said so far, assuming it comes together, it's a Brendan Rodgers signing, isn't it? And that's what a lot of people have been wanting to see. And without being too on the nose, a safe pair of hands, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, yeah. Sorry, Tony.
Tell you how old I am, Hamish. I interviewed Kasper Schmeichel the day he signed for Falkirk. There you go. So
was that about 05, 06, something like that?
07, I think, around about then.
Right.
And John Hughes signed him for Falkirk, quality goalkeeper even back then. So, yeah, listen, it strikes me as being... I think history could repeat itself here. I think Kasper Schmeichel will experience what Joe Hart experienced at Celtic in a renaissance. And it doesn't matter how old you are. He showed at the Euros that he's still a good goalkeeper, still hates losing goals, and he can still kick it. As the old song says, can he kick it? Yes, he can. So, and the manager's worked with him before and trusts him implicitly. So, as Joe said there, can't have it always, can we? We can't say wanting on just to bring in his own players. And the first one of his own players he wants to bring in, and everybody up in arms and setting social media alight. The guy can clearly still play. He's a quality goalkeeper. He's 6 foot plus, which is a great height for a goalkeeper. And and I'm looking at it that Joe Hart loved it, came up unknown, but Kasper Schmeichel's got a wee bit of knowledge of Scottish football as well, so he'll be well versed in the whole Celtic Rangers thing. It's probably what Kasper Schmeichel needs. If people were thinking he was going to wind down his career and just, having left Anderlecht. So I think they'll be good for each other. I think Celtic will be good for Kasper Schmeichel, and Kasper Schmeichel will be good for Celtic. And he's very good friends with Joe Hart, so you can just imagine the phone call. Celtic are in to go before he even get the words out. Go, do it, that kind of thing. So, and that's a win-win for everybody all round. The guy will tell him, listen, you're 37, you could end up playing to your 41, 42 at this club because they'll love you to bits. That kind of thing, So, I'm all for it, and I trust the manager on this one in terms of bringing Kasper Schmeichel in. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's embrace him the way they did with Joe Hart, and give him another few years of his career, and hopefully successful years of his career, because he's already won the FA Cup and under Rodgers, and he won the title under Ranieri, the English Premier League title. So, you don't need to know all about his pedigree. It's there.
Semi-finals of the European last Euros with Denmark, wasn't it? Semi-finals of the Conference League with Leicester City. So he's a big game player, very similar to Joe Hart. See, when you think about it and the kind of career he's had, and along with Joe Hart, dare I say, maybe in terms of English football, one of the more kind of recognisable names over the past 10-15 years in terms of just always kind of being there. Listen, we'll come on and talk a wee bit more. First of all, just a shout out to our sponsors. If you're looking for a winning heating solution for your home, MPH Boilers is your go-to team. As an award-winning family-run business serving all of mainland Scotland, they bring the best in boiler installations and servicing. Partnered with Weissmann, who are known for their top-notch German-engineered boilers, MPH Boilers ensures your home stays warm and efficient all year round. Visit www.mpHboilers.co.uk for more details. Joe, where did the idea amongst the support of wanting a younger goalkeeper in come from? And does it matter at all? Because I'm already seeing a few comments saying he's too old, etc.
I suppose I understand where it comes from. People are thinking about someone coming to the club. It has to be that. I think a rational approach to any transfer window with Celtic is that just put how much money might or might not be there to one side. What are the players that we can realistically get in a window? As I said this several times, I'd love to see Celtic open the checkbook and bring in new players across the team. Any goalkeeper that is of the quality and the standard that we'd be looking at, who's only 23, 24, 25, you'd have to assume there are other clubs looking at those as well. There are agents involved trying to make a lot of money off them. Making sure that they make the biggest decision, and ultimately the realistic or the kind of sobering point for that is can we expect it to attract when there are bigger clubs looking at these younger goalkeepers? So I don't have an issue with the age at all. I think if you're looking at bringing in a goalkeeper at 39 or 40 or something, that you'd be thinking, right, they are right towards the end. But at 37, there are still a few years left. We are looking to make impact or inroads in Europe, hopefully, under Brendan Rodgers, who's still got another 2 years in his contract to go. Hopefully he extends that, all going well, but at the moment that's where we're at. So the age thing personally doesn't bother me. I get why people are a little bit upset about it. You're looking at the style in which Celtic have always signed players about bringing a player in and then selling them on. It's not going to be the case here, but equally he's a free agent, so we're not going to be a big outlay either. So I feel like that kind of cancels that side of it out. One of my favourite goalkeepers of all time is Edwin van der Sar, and you think about how he was playing against Celtic in 2006. He was right up at that age as well, so I have no issues with it. I suppose, that seems to be the real bone of contention among the fans at this point, doesn't it? It's not something that bothers me too much.
Yeah, it's the only kind of criticism I'm seeing in terms of Kasper Schmeichel directly. Tony, the other criticism is of the club, and is this, a kind of, are we scrambling, as Derry says, after, months and months, I think late February when we knew Joe Hart was departing. So in terms of that, it maybe doesn't look great for the club, but I struggle to see the downside of this, to be honest. I think he'll do a job for us for a couple of years. He's worked with Brendan Rodgers previously. I think he'll take to Celtic extremely well. He strikes me as very similar to Joe Hart in that he'll come in and he'll realise what the club are about right away. He'll work alongside Callum McGregor in the same way Joe Hart did. He'll replace that experience that is left when Joe Hart left as well.
Yeah, what's not to like about that? And he's going to have a conversation with the guy that he replaces, and the guy who just hung up his gloves. You'll tell him all of that. You say, look, from the get-go, embrace this. It'll be the best. You'll not want to leave. You'll not want to chuck it. This will give you your zest back for goalkeeping. If you were thinking you were at the end of your career, no chance. This is a proper football club, as Joe always said, and they celebrate wins properly, successes properly. He said, embrace it and ingratiate yourself in that culture. And he'll do that anyway, because from people I've spoke to, he's a top professional. His bars are set really high. So I'm like you, Hamish. The first thing that struck me when Celtic were interested in Kasper Schmeichel was this could have the same effect as Hart did when he came in. It was the first thing that kind of sprung to mind. And he just no barrier, I guess, when I'm saying if he can still kick it. And he clearly can. He's playing in the Euros at 37. You know what I mean? And he was great. He was good. So I don't have a problem with it as well. I can't see that. Yeah, you want to get, if people wanted a younger goalkeeper, fine. So be it. And as Joe says there, these guys cost a hell of a lot of money, young goalkeepers. And if the manager is happy with working with that calibre of goalkeeper who he's worked with before and he's been successful with before, it's a win-win, because Brendan Rodgers clearly feels he'll bring something to that dressing room. And that, for me, speaks volumes. Yeah, could we have got a younger goalkeeper? Yeah, we could have. We haven't. We brought in Kasper Schmeichel. So you have to get behind this. You have to get behind this. The reasoning behind it, the thought processes, and just let him come in and hopefully do what Joe Hart did and be successful and win trophies and medals at the latter stages of his career.
Yeah, another thing on that as well, sorry to interrupt you, Hamish, I just think that it's not priority, but I think that having that experience just helps the whole goalkeeping contingent as well, doesn't it? Toby Oluwayemi and these younger players, I'm sure they could absolutely learn from a 25 or 26-year-old, and it's not priority when they're selecting a goalkeeper, but having that presence like Joe Hart did, for me, it sort of ticks all the boxes.
Because it's funny when you're talking there about, he was Denmark's goalkeeper at the Euros. Now, if you take the age to one side and you realise we've signed Denmark's number one goalie, Denmark are I know they're not as good as they were a few years ago, but it's pretty decent, I would say. And yeah, I think you never know with signings for sure, but he doesn't strike me as someone who is, ready to retire. I think he's got probably at least a couple of years left in him, and he strikes me as the kind of guy who will just come to the club and embrace it and go for it. And he's worked with Brendan Rodgers as well. That's a big thing. Yeah,
he can also speak Danish to Matt O'Reilly. They can converse with us. Someone
convince him to stay.
Yeah, both of them, speaks his mother tongue, and so. But these kind of things can make a difference to help you settle in and just, so. But Kasper Schmeichel's English is perfect anyway. But if he felt the need, him and Matt O'Reilly could converse. They could room together. They could do whatever, as you say, convince him to stay. That kind of thing, So, but so it's all different things that make up the whole family feel of Celtic as a football club, doesn't it? So he's walking in and he's not a stranger straight away because he knows Matt O'Reilly. So, that's a good thing straight off the bat. Most people know Kasper Schmeichel anyway, in terms of reputation, but they might not know him as a person. But he knows Matt O'Reilly as a person straight away, so they can migrate to each other and take it from there. But he doesn't strike me as being a guy who'll struggle to fit in with the Celtic ethos and the Celtic culture, because Brendan Rodgers is very big on that, and he brings in good people, doesn't he? He always bangs on about players as persons in their own right, and I think he's signed a quality person who is a quality goalkeeper. So he's hoping that it's a seamless kind of transition from Joe Hart to Kasper Schmeichel. That's what we want. That's ideally what we all want, isn't it?
For the sounds of things, he had a pretty good season last year with Anderlecht as well. Kind of looking at some of the stats, and it seems like he was, pulling off a lot of saves. So yeah, I think the chat is that he's going to have a medical. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was reported by Fabrizio Romano. I would assume that they would want him on the flight to the US. So you think it would be today, maybe, or early tomorrow, and that will be announced, and he'll be on the flight, etc. So I think this is going to move pretty fast. Just if anyone's unsure or unaware, this is going to happen. I think it's kind of widely understood. This isn't just talk. Kasper Schmeichel could come to Celtic. I think from the reports we're getting, this is pretty much done, and Kasper Schmeichel is going to be our next goalkeeper. Hazel reckons it's a genius move. Sean reckons it'd be a great signing. Stephen's saying his stats were good. Last season saved 80% of shots on target. We had a few negative ones. I don't know if I've deleted them, maybe. Not sure. If you get negative thoughts, we don't want to hear them about Kasper Schmeichel. We only want positivity. Anything else in Kasper Schmeichel at the moment, guys? Anything else kind of jumping out to you?
I mean, who knows where we'll be on Friday, but because that's when they fly out, isn't it? They're going out on Friday or
Tuesday,
Thursday.
I thought.
Is that when they're flying out, is
Tuesday.
it? Sorry, my mistake.
I heard Tuesday, yeah. You
Yeah,
could be right,
well,
but I heard Tuesday.
Yeah, that's to have him in going over there, and then maybe even if we can do it similar to how Joe Hart joined us a few years ago when he came out, flew out for the European tie. Who knows what could happen over the next 5 days or so. If it is Tuesday that they're flying out, there could be some new faces flying over and meeting them out there as well. So yeah, I think it's quite exciting.
Hyun-Yu Oh has left, Tony. Christopher's hoping that Adam Ida's on his way back to Celtic. Why else would Celtic sell Oh? We are now down to one striker, one out-and-out striker. Obviously, it dies in Maeda there as well, but Kyogo Furuhashi is our kind of main striker at the moment. The O's exit was no real surprise. It was coming. What's your kind of overwhelming thoughts on O leaving?
I'm not too perturbed as long as you bring in someone like Adam Ida. Right, I'm connecting dots here and joining lines as I usually try to do, so reading between those lines and stuff, but you wouldn't sanction that if you were getting, negativity coming your way in terms of the Adam Ida deal, would you? I think you must be getting some positive vibes that you can conclude a deal. People are talking about the kind of magic figure of 6.5 million being enough to possibly prize Adam Ida away from Norwich. So I'm assuming, might be a big assumption, but I'm assuming they've sanctioned that transfer because they've maybe been green lighted to say, right, this is what we want for Adam Ida. And Celtic have kind of started the machinations on that. So I would like to think that is the case. Oh, I don't know. You always felt there was maybe a player in there, but every time we get the opportunity to prove it, it just didn't happen, did it? I think the most important goal he scored was the St Mirren goal, wasn't it? The 2-1 win. He scored the winner.
Winner against Hibs as well the season before, didn't he?
And but he was always seemed to be the fourth scorer in a 5-0 win or whatever, or that kind of the goal. Additional scorers were type thing after the game was done and dusted. But I think people looked. I wrote a piece saying Adam Ida was the player that O was supposed to be for Celtic, and if O was that player that Adam Ida was, he wouldn't be leaving. He wouldn't be at Genk. He'd still be here. So I think in terms of your big focal point up front, powerhouse up front, the manager decided Adam Ida's for me, not O, which is why he sanctioned the move to Genk. And good luck to him. Everybody that comes, you don't want them to fail. But I just think every time we get presented with a first team opportunity, he didn't do himself justice. And you can read into that what you want, that he was a project and one for the future and all that. But I don't know, as a striker at Celtic, you really do need to hit the ground running. You have to batter goals in with increasing regularity. If not, then the jury remains out. And I think the jury remained out, and didn't it, for his whole time he was here.
Yeah, I liked generally. I liked the attitude he brought. You never accuse of him of not putting in effort. I agree with you. I think I would have liked to see him be given more opportunities, but I don't think that was ever really going to happen when Kyogo was the main striker. And I agree with you. I think Adam Idah showed us that to make an impact as a second choice striker, you have to do something out of the ordinary. Didn't really do that, maybe a couple of big goals, but you compare it to what Adam Idah did since January. Adam Idah scored more, defining goals since January than did since the previous January, and by far. So Idah's definitely, a better option. Was there a role for O as third striker? I'm guessing he probably wants to go and get out and playing. Personally, I would have maybe preferred a loan just to see what he could do at a team in Europe and maybe taking it from there. But $4.5 million we're hearing, Joe. I mean, that's pretty good money, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that Adam Idah feels like the replacement for Giakoumakis more than, as if O's been kind of lost in that gap. If, assuming that Celtic can get Adam Idah, and even if they can't, the fact that we had him obviously from January forward, and we've spoken loads about how difficult it is to make an impact from January forward when you're pushing for titles, especially with the league and the Scottish Cup on the table at that point. And despite the 8 points at the end of the season, it was closer. Adam Idah's obviously made a huge impact in that time. I'm like you, Hamish. I liked his attitude. He seemed to have a decent rapport with the fans as well. When he scored those goals towards the end of the last season, the one before, and he was having a bit of fun with the way he was celebrating with the Celtic fans at home. But yeah, I mean, again, you could look over the stats and I could be wrong here, but it always felt like he was coming off the bench to make anything. And then, as you say, Tony, when he was given that chance, it didn't feel like he kind of grabbed it with both hands, which he really had to do, I think. But yeah, I've spoken about this before. Like when Ange Postecoglou brought him in, he seemed delighted to get that signing over the line, like happier than I can remember him with other guys through the door. So he clearly saw something in him enough to be so happy after getting him in after a few hurdles. But yeah, wish him well. The money feels like something that, especially if I look to build from here on, we're not going to have an outlay for the goalkeeper, assuming that Kasper Schmeichel comes through the door. That money could go elsewhere. And you'd have to think that if, again, kind of riffing off what you guys just said, like if we're not getting Adam Idah or someone else in, this would have been his opportunity to really make a name or a claim for himself there. So him going at the door hopefully means that we're going to build from here. You're
confident, Tony, of Idah coming in. How confident are you of it being this week?
I'd like to think he'd be in before America, but feeling that come in just as the tour kicks off. So yeah, I would say I'm very confident of that. Yeah, I still stand by it. I still stand by what I wrote on the site, that he will 100% be a Celtic player. So I just feel the time and the way the manager speaks about him as well, spoke about him after the cup final. This is a player that the manager covets, and there is no real roadblocks there. The Celtic have the financial means to go and get him, and I think the player wants to come, and I think the player will be best served both internationally and club career-wise coming to Celtic. And I think Adam Idah knows that as well. Not saying he's a troublemaker, but I think he's already made intimations that his heart lies in Glasgow. So I just think it's a matter of time. I really do think that it's just, and I know Norwich are claiming they want to have a look at him and all that. They're going to have to claim that, aren't they? You want to tell their fans that we put up a fight, but this guy's heart lay elsewhere. You have to do that, but I think it's just a question of Celtic writing the cheque out for the correct amount of money that Norwich want, and that's fair enough, isn't it? So, but I want them to just sort of get it done now. It's dragged its heels on long enough. If I'm Brendan Rodgers, I'm saying we've let all go. Let's conclude this deal and let's get it in by, for the optics to look a hell of a lot better by the time they get to the USA, and you've got like Schmeichel in the door, you've got possibly Idah in the door, maybe Bernardo and others that can join further down the line on that tour. So I'd like for that to happen, and I'm pretty confident it will.
Yeah, things start to look a lot better if you get Schmeichel, Idah, Bernardo in relatively quickly, and then you can look at left back. Dennis wondering any news of a left back. It does seem very quiet on that front, Dennis, but we'll wait and see. Maybe the club are incapable of looking at several different positions at once. Maybe they're literally just starting from the back and working their way forward. Michael wondering why buy the likes of why not develop our own projects? I would maybe suggest we don't have any forwards coming through that are good enough. We know the club wanted to make Rocco Vata one of the strikers rather than a winger. Brendan Rodgers has said that openly. He didn't obviously fancy that offer, so he left the club. Do we need a third option, Joe, if Ida does join, or does Dies and Maida kind of do a job there?
I would love a third option. I don't know if we need one. I would probably rather see, if we are going to be strengthening, in the team, we're going to be selective about where we're doing that. I would rather see, another person coming in at left back to push Greg Taylor, perhaps another centre back to galvanise the defence. And wingers, it feels like we need more width and we need more aggressive play on those sides that the Brendan Rodgers teams generally do. But yeah, it just goes back to everything in this window, and maybe the last few windows for me have been about where do we really need to strengthen. Clearly the goalkeeper was one, so great, hopefully that's wrapped up as soon as possible. Would love to see Ida and Bernardo coming back in, and then maybe it's looking elsewhere. I don't know. I mean, I think if Ida comes through, that would really settle everybody as well, and then you're looking at those two, Dies and Maida, doing a job as well. But I don't know, what do you guys think?
You want Miovski as well, don't you, Tony?
In an ideal world, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I my thoughts on these things, right? And it is very base, and it's very... See, you sign good players, you end up a good team. It's funny that, isn't it? You cannot get enough good players in your team, and people say, "Oh, you can't play them and them together." No, you can. You find a system that suits your good players and your best players. So, people say, "Thank goodness you're not in charge or in charge of the purse strings, Tony." But to me, bringing in, I just think it's the statements of intent that makes it. It's the message that it sends out. That you're not just wanting domestic dominance, because hand in hand they come together. If you sign enough good players, you will walk this title. But that would say to me that you're also aiming a lot higher than that, i.e. the new Champions League format and structure. I'd love us to be armed to the teeth with three strikers. I'd love us to go out. I think it's imperative that we get a left back. I think it's imperative that we get a new centre back. And if we're seeing these things, then the manager's clearly seeing these things. Because he knows a lot more about football than three of us, you'd like to think. So, so I just work for the optics as we're talking about. If we can get Kasper Schmeichel in this week and Ida in this week, possibly Bernardo, great. I still don't see that as standing still, which a lot of people are saying, because Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo were not our players. They were someone else's players, and they improved your team no end by what they produced at the end of the season. So I really fail to understand that. We're standing still. We didn't stand still when we signed Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers after their initial loan spells, did we? So we moved on, we progressed, we improved. Those two guys would improve your team. Kasper Schmeichel improved your team as well. It was an imperative that we signed the goalkeeper. We look to have got that. But I think if you can get those guys in, and then, as you say, Hamish, then functioning, and Joe, functioning what we actually also really need, or is imperative for our needs, and that's a left back and a centre back for me. I still think we're short of a powerhouse centre midfielder or a big guy in the middle of the park. And you're hearing all sorts of, and you're seeing all sorts of social media rumours about Matt O'Reilly. So we'll watch this space on that one, kind of thing. And yeah, do we need another winger? Arguable that we do, isn't it? But you're going to give the wingers the benefit of the doubt, having had a full pre-season, and see what they can produce. But for me, I'm thinking I wouldn't mind another winger as well. You know what I mean? So,
So I know that we're not saying anything new, but it's how many weeks are still left of the transfer window? Do you know?
Yeah, six and a half, I think.
So there is no real panic, is there, in those terms? And I think that's what the manager's been saying as well, in all his public proclamations. Exactly, Joe. There is no real panic, and he might want to start the domestic season and see where we are, and then think, do you know what, we could do with. It might transpire that it's a winger. But I don't want us to go into the new season without a new left back and a new centre back.
Yeah.
As well, right? As well as Adam, Ida, Bernardo, and Schmeichel. That's the kind of 5 priorities.
Yeah.
If there's 5 Celtic priorities for me personally, and then you work on a midfielder, assuming you keep O'Reilly. So there's a lot of ifs and but clauses there, isn't there?
Yeah, a winger for me is 100% on the list. I think a box office winger would really take us up the levels, because I'm really not convinced, other than James Forrest, who Brendan Rodgers clearly didn't fancy for most of last season. Might be different this coming season, and Dyson Maida, who's obviously turned into a bit of a star for us, but can still blow hot or cold sometimes. Other than those two, I'll be honest, I don't really rate any of the wingers we have at the club. Some of them might come good. Palma might come good. Kuhn might come good. Less sure about Yang, to be honest. But I'm not convinced with any of those guys. I'd certainly want a big name, I don't necessarily mean a big name, but someone of the the quality of Jota, someone who can really bring us through games, because I'm not convinced we have anyone really like that at the moment. So that would definitely be on my list. In terms of a striker, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion. If we sign Ida, I'm kind of comfortable with those two, knowing that Maida's there as well if we need him. I think the reality is we play one striker, and I think would function fine with Kyogo and Ida, knowing that Maida's always there. Maybe if we looked at a young guy, like an Odsonne Edouard type loan signing who could eventually, be a permanent player for us, I wouldn't be against that either. But if we bring Ida in, I'm kind of happy with the forward, and I'd rather focus on left back, centre back, and a winger. Midfield, potentially, I take your point, Tony, potentially looking for a bit of steel in there. Certainly if O'Reilly moves on, but there's still work to be done, Joe. But things start to look a wee bit better, as we say, if we can just start getting players in.
Yeah, and I think we've spoken loads about Bosun Lawal possibly being able to step in there, and from what we've seen of him so far, he looks like something that could be really viable for certainly domestically, and probably in Europe as well, as we kind of push into the campaign. But yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration among fans of the antsiness or the angst or whatever about getting people through the door, and I mean, I would love to see us bringing a few players before the start of the league. But equally, I don't know, I still feel that if we've got them there and settled in and ready to go for Europe starting properly, that's which is obviously towards the end of the transfer or past the end of the transfer window. I'm okay with that. I don't know. I don't normally stress too much during the window, but as time goes on, you start to get a little bit more anxious about it. But I think there's still so long to go and so many things in between that I'm not letting myself get too stressed yet. I understand people getting stressed, but I don't know, trying to maintain a bit of calm before I start freaking out.
Has he calmed you down, everyone? Is anyone now feeling much calmer now Joe has spoken? The chat, by the way, Paulo Bernardo has apparently left Benfica training, according to reports from Portugal. So obviously, if that's the case, then that's kind of obvious what's happening there. So that could be another one to keep an eye on, Tony. Bernardo coming in.
Yeah, listen, I think we just want to see players coming in, don't we? That would make us all feel a lot better about ourselves. In terms of that, I haven't really stressed or panicked, because I still sense that, like the manager says, there's a lot bubbling away with Celtic. As the time marches down to the start of the domestic campaign, people get more and more, antsy and nervous. But for once, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they have these things in hand. If we get to the start of August, obviously kick-off for August the 4th, but if we get to the end of July, start of August, and none of these things have happened, then I would really start to, not panic, but I'd be really asking questions. What was happened here? Why is this taking so long? Or what's going on? So, but I think they're kind of over it as much as they can be. It's always the same with Celtic. It just seems like long, protracted affairs. But I think certainly this week's a big week for them, because they do fly out to America. I think Brendan Rodgers wanted some ducks in a row, didn't he, lined up for that trip. So I'm pretty confident there'll be, at least 2 or 3 pieces of business done for Celtic this week in that sense, because it'll give everybody a lift, won't it?
Yeah. What are you writing about at the moment? Is there anything of note that's in the works?
Yes, I've spoken to someone about Kasper Schmeichel.
Okay.
He's going to give me the lowdown on Kasper Schmeichel. Should I tell them who it is, Joe, or will I wait to just put it on the site and wait till it appears on the...
It's your baby, mate. You can do what you want.
Well, having said I spoke to Kasper Schmeichel on his first day at Falkirk, his manager back then was John Hughes. So John Hughes has kindly weighed into the debate, and he did say to me when I phoned him this morning, he wondered who would be the first to phone him and ask him about Kasper, because he had him, but he really positive
He's
stuff
always
to
up
say
for
about
a chat, isn't he, John Hughes?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Anytime, every day. But first thing in the morning, he's always in good form because he's usually out on the bike or something. But so he had him at Falkirk and spoke in glowing terms about him, and he was a young up and coming goalkeeper then. So but he's very enthused about it all. He can't. He's never any other way than enthusiastic, John Hughes, but he was particularly enthusiastic about Kasper Schmeichel signing for Celtic. So, at 8:30 in the morning, hearing somebody buzzing on the other end of your phone it's always a good thing. It's good for the soul, as people always say. But it certainly felt good for the soul, that conversation. So keep your eyes out on that appearing on the website. It might be some point today or tomorrow, but it's certainly there. I just need to write it in the great Morecambe and Wise. I'll write down all the words, but not necessarily in the right order. You know what I mean? So there you go. We'll see how it goes.
Look forward to it. It'd be good to actually hear read what John Hughes thinks about the signing and the kind of person that Kasper Schmeichel is. I dare say he'll have matured a fair bit over the last nearly 20 years. He'll probably be a very different guy, but there'll certainly be parts of that personality and goalkeeping that will have remained the same. So, yep, all good. Joe, what else is going on? Is there anything else on your mind? Anything else you're working on?
We're just working away behind the scenes at the moment, building up to the America tour. I'm looking forward to having more to. It's been nice having these wee pre-season games, and I know that full due respect to Ayr United and Queen's Park, but this next bit feels like kind of pre-season kicking in proper, doesn't it? I'm looking forward to not looking forward to the kick-off time so much, but certainly in this end of the world, I know it's different for you, Hamish. It might actually suit you. What time are they over there?
Breakfast, I think it's 9:30 for 2 of them, and 9:30 in the morning, and the other one's maybe 5 in the morning, something like that. So it's reasonable,
Yeah, that's pretty perfect, yeah. But no, I get that it's exhibition in nature, it's friendlies, but Man City and Chelsea. I don't know too much about DC United over the course, to be honest, not these days. But just to see the Brendan Rodgers doing a bit of experimentation, I'm sure, and probably bringing the team, especially assuming that Schmeichel comes in and gets over there, bringing the team together to resemble more what we're likely to see in the coming weeks is always exciting. So, the Euros was always good for me, and pre-season's fine, but we're getting towards the real stuff, and that's where it gets really exciting, isn't it?
Hope we get some good crowds in the States and the games feel proper. I was a bit disappointed with Japan last year, guys. I felt the games were a wee bit drab. I know one of them was 6-4, but I felt like it was in a bit of an empty stadium and all that stuff. So I'm hoping we get a good crowd against DC United. I dare say for the 2 English games you'll get big crowds, because obviously a lot of people want to come out and see the stars of Man City and Chelsea. But I'm hoping it's going to be good, Tony. I'm looking forward to the 3 matches, and then we're into the start of the season from that point.
Yeah, the Yokohama game last year, it just felt like a training match, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did for me. And
does that not feel like a million years ago now? Like I know the players say it was a long season, but it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to, I think kind of O suffered with that, didn't he? The fact that the manager at the time really was enthusiastic about him and then left. I think O struggled, but the guy that brought him in and was very positive about him, I think he struggled when Ange left, and no fault of his own. It's like, you brought me over here to this wonderful club and left, not Andy's fault. He just got got an opportunity. But so but no, I think it's a decent pre-season this season, isn't it? In terms of the step up in class, and you always like to measure yourself against better teams. And I know they're so-called friendly matches, but whenever a Scottish team plays an English team, it's always a bit of needle with it, isn't there? And there's always that kind of rivalry about it. But you just want to see how Celtic kind of shape up against quality operators like Joe. I don't know too much about DC United, but hey, we'll find out on the early hours of Saturday morning. Is it 12:30 for us, I think, Hamish? 12:30, just after midnight for those that are going to burn the midnight oil and all that. We'll have to, Joe, won't we? We'll have to do that. But hey, looking forward to it. Bring it on, as they say.
Yeah, it should be good. Should be a busy few days. Hopefully get a wee signing or two in. That would help as well. Right, guys, thanks for your time on this Monday morning. Appreciate it. Thanks to all of you. 700 of you watching live as we speak. So that's great numbers. Thanks for the support. Please give us a subscribe if you're able to. That'd be much appreciated. And we'll return this time tomorrow to do it all again.